Hey, it's Andrew Huang. This past February, last time I was in LA, I got to spend some time with Karra and Reid Stefan, who are absolutely crushing it as artists, songwriters, producers. They've got over 50 million streams on Spotify alone, and I thought I would ask them if they'd be willing to share all of their vocal setup. Like everything they do, their microphones, their gear, every setting in their vocal chain. So I hope you're down for a bit more of an in-depth video, and if you like this kind of thing, I also wanted to let you know that my online course is running again, and it's this same type of format, just like walking you through the finest details of every aspect of my music making process. So learnmonthly.com/Andrew if you want to find out more about that. But for now, let's go visit Reid and Karra.
So our studio's down here, and actually before we go into the studio, if you take a look at this pile of junk right down here, this is all the computers and stuff in it that makes noise. My number one most important production tip for home recordings: take your noise-making computer, bring it out of the room that your microphone is going to be in. This is going to make it way easier to finish the rest of the steps in this video. Extension cords bring it to the 4K monitors so that we could sit here. It's really nice to be able to sit here right next to the singer while they're singing at the mic right here, rather than having to talk to them through like a microphone from far away.
When you're sitting in with the singer, you want to be able to communicate with them, and I think the best communication happens when you're face to face.
Totally. And you guys can probably tell, like as soon as we came into this room, it's got all this treatment on it that immediately the sound is already better. So we're taking the sound making equipment outside, we're treating the room, and that's going to be, a huge amount of what we need to make it sound good.
So here's where the whole vocal chain starts with our microphone. This mic is called Sony C800G, and it's really one of the best vocal mics you can get. And down just below it, we have what's called a pop filter, and we put this up in front of the microphone so that, thank you.
All right.
So that the wind coming out of your mouth doesn't get into the microphone, because when you blow into a microphone, it sounds really bad. So that's what the windscreen is for. The signal comes from the mic over here into the preamp. This Vintech X73 has a built-in EQ too, so you can do some extra saucing on your vocal on the way in. After that, it gets compressed here at the TubeTech CL1B, my favorite compressor in the world. And then finally, the signal enters the computer through the Apollo X8.
And also, we just want to mention, this is some pretty expensive gear, but you don't need it to get really good vocals. It'll maybe take you like that final 10% to something super polished, but you can get amazing results without having the hardware, preamp and compressor and crazy expensive mic.
Now that we have all of our recording gear set up, we're gonna get a vocal chain going in the headphones so the singer can sound good while they record their takes. So I'm gonna grab lead vocal sauce and drop it here on my audio channel. This is a full mixing chain that we're gonna get into later, but for now we're just gonna use the stock preset and record some vocals.
A lot of people don't know that distance actually changes the EQ of your voice. So if you're standing closer to the mic, you have more bass. If you're standing further away, you have less bass.
Let me turn the lights down so you get the visual. Putting on a show, unpredictable, 'cause I got the only body that you'll ever need to know.
All right, so now we're on to the editing process. The first thing that I did was comp my vocals. So basically, I just picked my favorite takes from each take. So I have 3 edits here. Now I'm gonna clean up my vocals. So that means I'm gonna take out any unnecessary breaths, turn down breaths, and take down harsh consonants like S's and T's and P's.
My favorite way to do a vocal chain is these effect racks. And what this is simply saving a whole bunch of plugins as one preset. And they even have some convenient knobs out here. Before we have the sauce, we actually have auto-tune on here, and this is taking our pitch and snapping it into the key of our song to make sure all of our notes are dead in tune. And because Karra's a really good singer, we don't need a lot, so I chose 27 on the pitch correction speed. That'll help natural it out just a little bit. So let's move into the actual chain. What we have going on here is all stock plugins, but we're gonna go through the principles behind it if you're not using Ableton so that you can still follow along. The first thing hitting this vocal is a de-esser, and this does similar to what Karra did, detects the letter S or the letter T, turns the volume down on it.
That's interesting to me that you've got the de-esser first in the chain. I usually put it like after my compressors, so that's a thing you could experiment with at home.
Next thing that we have is some EQ, and this is rolling off all the needless low end and even some of the low mids, controlling the mid frequencies and making the top just a little bit brighter.
Let me turn the lights on so you get the visual. Putting on a show. Unpredictable.
You'll notice a lot of these plugins are making really subtle moves. There's no one plugin that's really doing all the heavy lifting. Moving on, we've got a compressor. We're doing a low ratio, and we even have the dry wet at 80%. So we're not even hitting this compressor as hard as we can. We're actually hitting it pretty lightly.
Let me turn the lights on so you get the visual. Putting on a show.
Next, we have our dynamic tube, and this is doing kind of what a preamp does, a really subtle distortion to your signal.
Let me turn the lights on so you get the visual.
And then this plugin is probably doing the most heavy lifting. This is my own personal variation of the OTT preset that comes here with Ableton. This is probably the most famous preset in all of Ableton. I took it and I made my own vocal version of OTT, and that's what's going here.
Let me turn the lights on so you get the visual. Putting on a show.
And this is just a crazy compressor that looks at your vocal as lows, mids, or highs and does different compression to the different frequencies. Now here's where we get into the heavy compression. I have two compressors here doing what's called parallel compression. That means you have the dry signal being combined with really over-compressed signal. And because it's so over-compressed, we have to turn the volume down a lot.
Let me turn the lights on so you get the visual. Putting on a show.
Whereas your first one is your smooth it out compression. This parallel compressor is your show me the details compressor. That's what I like to think of it as.
Can you talk a little bit about with your parallel compression,
Yep.
why do you have two different compressors, and would you ever mix them quite differently? Do you use one and not the other sometimes?
That's a great question. The reason I have two, and you'll notice if you actually get the Sauce products, if you use the Waves one, there's just one in there. I found that Ableton compressors were not quite as aggressive as other compressors, so I put two in there because it took two to do the job of one. So they're always together. When you adjust the volume, it's not like I would want the glue parallel over the other parallel. I want them both together because together they're strong enough.
We get a good look at the settings.
Oh, let's
on
go in
the-
here. Pretty much full blast. That's what I like to use all these compressors for. So this is where it starts to get fun. This is the effects rack. I like having an option of different delays. A slow delay, a fast delay, a slap delay. And we can actually hear these better by closing the chain and just simply using the knobs that they're connected to.
Let me turn the lights on so you get the visual. Putting on a show. Unpredictable, cause
And the slap is my favorite. I think that adds a really cool width to the vocal. So for a different part of the song, I might have these settings, and then for a different part of the song, it might look like this. So automation is really my favorite sauce. It makes the verse feel different from the chorus.
I love that you've got your different tempo divisions for the delays already set up and ready to go. This is something I have not done, and I need to add it to my chain because, in the moment, just being able to quickly experiment with the ones that you really go to often, that's like a major workflow
I always
enhancement.
use the slap. The slap usually stays on the whole time, but the other three, quarter, eighth, and half, I use those just at special little moments. That's a great moment knob. We got sauce before and after all these delays. We got bit reduction before it, and then Ableton echo, and then a flanger after.
let me turn the lights on so you get the visual. Putting on a show.
You basically just rack it and mix it right here in the rack. I like doing distortions before the echo and then auto pan after the echo. It's a little boring when an echo just goes echo, echo, echo without doing anything new as it repeats. So the auto panner will help it echo over here and then echo over there. The guitar pedal will help the echoes be really lo-fi compared to the very clear lead vocal. Down here in the eighth notes, same thing. We're actually inverting the phase of our delays so that they don't compete as much or sound exactly the same as the dry vocals. So
Can we also look at your
yeah.
the tabs for echo and modulation, because you're definitely darkening up the
Yeah, I'm
feedback
using
signal, right?
the mid side. I'm using the reverb, and I'm also using the ducking too, which is going to lower your echoes while the words are going, and then in between the words, the echoes come out at full volume.
And you're filtering it sounds like a bit too.
Yep, filtering the lows out, filtering the highs out. All of these echoes are actually at different settings too. The quarters are a little brighter, eighths are a little brighter, and I think the slaps are the brightest. Yeah. And then that brings us into the reverbs. We just have two different options, long and short. And I love putting distortion before the reverbs. Let me turn these up.
Let me turn the lights on so you get the visual. Putting on a show. Unpredictable,
So when you're boosting that reverb knob, you're boosting both the short and the long reverb. And like I said, the distortion before it and the auto pan after it, same principle as the delays. It's all about making them sound slightly different. The auto panning after the reverb does two things actually. It's one, making the volume wiggle up and down so it's not just a smooth fade out.
So it's like a tremolo.
So it's doing tremolo, and it's also doing left-right panning too.
And are you ducking the reverb against the dry signal at all?
Only the delays are. The reverb is not. Sometimes I do that with the reverb, but recently I've been using less and less reverb on my vocals, so ducking it wouldn't even really get noticed, but I always do that with delays. So there you have it. That is my go-to sauce for mixing every vocal. Even as someone who has all the plugins, I gotta say I use these the most, and that's why they're my default when I go to mix a vocal, to just start out with the basics, load up your stock plugins. So don't ever feel discouraged that you don't have enough sound quality or enough tools because you just have the stock plugins. In fact, you have some of the best tools there are.
Yeah, and so this is the chain that you actually used on this song. It's on Spotify, it's released, and that's super sick.
Yeah, shout out to Lead Vocal Sauce, available now at wholeloops.com.
All right, so thank you so much, Reid and Karra, for having me over and walking through like all your vocal secrets. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Check them out on YouTube, Instagram. I'll link to them below. Yeah.
And we'll catch you guys next time in another tutorial.
Peace out.
Peace out.
You're such a pro, man.
Hey.